In this video we will finish the section called clauses. We only have 2 sentences left. And this first one is a direct quote. John said, "I read that book." If we click generate, generate text is identical. You may remember going way back to the beginning when we created this language project, we provided default quotation marks for you. So it's using that. And then you also might wonder, where is that comma coming from? If you look down here in the find replace rules, the punctuation section, there's this rule right here. If you prefer, let's say you precede your direct quotes with a colon. You can come here and change this to a colon. And now, John said, colon, I read that book. So that's where the comma is coming from. Let's change that back. Okay, so this one is done. Let's go to the next one. Okay, it was John who read that book. And if we rest our cursor here, we see that the participant status is set to emphasized. So John is being emphasized. So you need to find a way in your target language to emphasize a particular noun. In English, one way of emphasizing it is to use a cleft construction. It was John who read that book. So let's go ahead and create this cleft construction. We'll create a new structural adjustment rule. Let's say this is a noun issue. Okay, so here it was John who read that book. We have a I'll explain this in a minute. Okay, let's write a rule for a cleft construction, assuming that it's the subject that's being emphasized. If it's the object that's being emphasized, it was a book that John read, that would be slightly different, or it was a book that was read by John. Let's assume that the subject noun is being emphasized. Okay, so let's set this to subject. Let's set this noun to emphasized. And this empty noun phrase and this empty adverb phrase, actually let's include an empty adjective phrase as well. And let's set these as optional. These are so that these other phrases will be included in this rule. We want this entire clause to be put into a relative clause. It was John who read that book, so this is a relative clause now. And we want, if there are other noun phrases in addition to the subject noun phrase, if there's an adverb phrase, if there's an adjective phrase, we want those also put into the relative clause. So let's go here, and now let's put all of this into a relative clause. And we'll tag it as a relative clause, a restrictive relative clause. And the restrictive relative clause needs to be inside a noun phrase, and the head noun will copy from here. So let's say copy this noun out to this noun phrase. This will set to relative pronoun. Let's also assume that this is a man or a woman. If it were a thing, like the fish ate Jonah, and we want to make a cleft construction, it was a fish that ate Jonah. That would be slightly different. We wouldn't use who. It was a fish who ate Jonah. We would use a fish that ate Jonah. So let's assume this is masculine or feminine. Okay, we have to go back. This is masculine or feminine. And let's go back and set this to relative pronoun. Okay, so now we need the words it and was. So let's insert another noun phrase out here. We'll tag it as the subject. And we'll insert the word it into it. It's a target word. And let's insert a verb phrase. And let's insert the verb to be. We want to insert the target word to be. And for the tense, okay, here it was John who read that book. It could be future tense. John will read that book. It will be John who will read that book. We want the tense of this verb to be the same as the tense of this verb. So let's copy the tense, the target time, from here, just target tense and form, from here to here. And what this is saying, you see here the 6. Okay, the 6 is a pointer to the input structure. This is saying constituent number 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right here. Even though when we're copying it, we clicked on here, this is how the software knows where to find this feature. So from constituent number 6, which is right here, it will copy target tense and form to this verb. And that should be sufficient for this. Well, let's tag this noun phrase as the object. And let's try it out. Okay, the it was John who read that book. Okay, we want to delete the. I hope you remember that we need to tag this as a pronoun. And then the constituents that modify pronouns will be deleted by another rule. Okay, it was John who read that book. Generated text is identical. So let's save it. Now again, this particular rule assumes this is a man or woman being modified. It assumes it's the subject that's being clefted. If it's a thing that's emphasized, then we would need a different structure in this same rule. If it's the object that's being emphasized, we would again need a different structure. This structure only handles this particular situation, but that's okay. When we come to passages in the Bible and there's an emphasized noun, if this structure doesn't handle it, then we'll write a structure, another structure in this rule that will handle it. Okay? So, that's the last sentence. We're now ready to start the story of David and Goliath. I would highly recommend that you go back and regenerate all of your verses, nouns 1:1 to clauses 105, compare them, and make sure that everything is still proper. After this video is over, I'll do that, and if there are any differences, then that will be in the next video.